Hello everyone. Today we start our first session on the UPSC CSE, the mains examination for the ethics paper, which otherwise is called Ethics, Integrity and the Aptitude. Okay, what I've done is I have prepared a list of topics. After a very careful thought over a period of years, that I was able to arrive at this list, and this is the sequence in which we'll start covering our course. Okay, now we'll start with meta ethics and introduction, and for this introduction I'll give you two examples. One is of a game, okay, and the second one is of a city, an analogy of a city. Then we come to something called nuances. Nuances are more than something peculiar. It is something which is pretty complex and multi-layered. For us to understand and appreciate what nuances are, I'll give you two examples. One is, do we even understand what the color red is? And do we understand what Christianity is? These are going to be short, brief examples just to highlight of how less we understand the world. Having done that, we'll go to something like emotions and feelings. Do we even know what emotions are and what feelings are and which one comes first? Even if you are in an advanced stage of your preparation for the UPSC and for the ethics, I think you are in for a huge surprise. Then we'll come to beliefs and opinions. What are beliefs? What are opinions? And I have deliberately not noted down what are attitudes and how all three of them get related. Then we come to something called subjectivity and objectivity. So when I say subjectivity, what is subjectivity? Okay, who's an subjectivist? What is objectivity? What's an objectivist? I'll give you an example for that, and then you can analyze if what you understood by these terms till right now was actually accurate. Here I must highlight to you the accuracy of our facts, of our evidence, and of our arguments. The accuracy and the relevance is everything. Then, unless you appreciate the nuances in a situation, you've lost the ethics paper. This one stands for direction of fit or direction of fitment. If you have never heard of direction of fit, fitment or adjustment, then it is obvious that you do not understand subjectivity and objectivity. We'll come to socialization and ideology. What is socialization? What is ideology? Finally arriving at what is morality and what is ethics. Then we come to meta-ethical definition. Right in the beginning, I'll be giving you a working definition. Okay, a working definition, an approximate definition, but the real technical definition will come in here. Then we come to meta-ethical theories. And at the lowest level, when we go to the finest level, you'll find these are 10. Okay. Now, here is a very interesting application of meta-ethics, meta-ethical theories. You have all heard of our CJI making a statement regarding parasites and cockroaches, right? We can use meta-ethical theories to analyze his statement from 10 different perspectives. All right? That is where I think these things become extremely important. All right, let's immediately get started and let's jump into something called meta ethics. Even before we jump into meta ethics, let's do something called meta game. Okay, there is nothing called a meta game, but this will give you an introduction into what meta ethics is. How do we approach that? All right, so you've all heard of games, right? Even before the game, where are these? The games which are being organized right now is the FIFA World Cup. The FIFA World Cup is being organized across 3 countries and 3 locations in Mexico, 1 in United States, 11 in United States, and about 2 in Canada. Okay, before I get into that, let me give you a working definition of meta-ethics. Okay, whatever you've read so far, I would suggest you might forget it at this point of time. Just start afresh and then only you will notice what your real progress is all about. Okay, I don't want you to carry any biases and prejudices and meta ethics is above ethics and beyond ethics and everything. Please don't do this. We're going to start afresh right now. The aim is deadly accuracy. Okay, high relevance. All right. The first statement that you should note down is meta ethics is a bird's eye view. It's a bird's eye view of the entire project of ethics. It is not only a bird's eye view, that's step number 1. Step number 2 is it is a deep dive into the entire project of ethics. So there are 2 things we'll be doing here. One is a bird's eye view of the entire project of ethics and a deep dive into the entire project of ethics. All right, let's get started. I hope you'll be able to recognize what I am trying to draw here. Okay, this space should be okay. Maybe you can tell me if you do recognize this form. Oh, I seem to have run out of space there. Anyway. Okay. Some of you might have recognized that this is, well, approximately the map of United States of America. Okay. So if I was to draw the above part is Canada, then we have those lakes. Okay. United States, Canada, United States, Mexico. So we are having games being organized at Ciudad Mexico, Mexico City, Guadalajara, Monterrey, Monterrey. Then 11 cities here. Then we have it at Vancouver, and interesting. We are having games here in a city which is called, maybe I can write it down. How do you pronounce this city? Is it Toronto, or is it, as the locals would pronounce it, this T goes silent, this T doesn't matter, and an H appears. Toronto, Toronto, or even Toronto. But why do we speak like Toronto? Okay, another example. I told you the city's name is Gualada, Gualada, Jara. Is it Guadalajara or is it Guadalajara? Okay. When I was talking to you about subjectivism, I'll give you a very quick example of this. Normally we call it Toronto because we did not bother to find out what is the real name, as the natives would call it. We just felt it was more convenient for us. It was easier for us. We did not have to go out in search of knowledge or truth. Therefore, we interpreted it literally and spoke and pronounced it literally as it is written. For knowledge and truth, you always have to go out in search. Okay? Toronto, Guadalajara. If you had gone out in search for facts and evidence, if you had shown that kind of curiosity, that would have led you to the right pronunciation. Okay? But you wanted the world to be the way you want it. Easier, convenient, shortcut. What everybody speaks. Supposing in India, you were to go around and say Toronto or Trono, you might tell me, but sir, nobody would understand me. Try and convincing them that it's not Toronto. You will find it difficult. It's not so much of others. The first step is you. Okay? Similarly, there is a city here whose name will be Oaxaca. But when you look at the spelling, it's completely different. So you have to go in search of knowledge and truth. Anyway, why did I draw this? There was a purpose. There is FIFA World Cup games, World Cup soccer on. Okay. Now, there was an opening ceremony, right? Okay. So it's like I'm just trying to draw something nice so that you remember it at all times. Okay. Let's make it a little symmetrical. Like an electricity button, this is on and this is off. Through the Indian convention, we know this is when a switch is like this, it is on. On means opening ceremony. Opening ceremony means the games are on. So what we are trying to do is look at what is a meta game? Where does it lead us? The moment I switched on, something like this appears. Okay. Now what happens is, here are the players. This is the ball. And this is the second team. Playing football. The moment you switch it on, suddenly in a bounded area or a boundary of time and space, the game begins. The first thing you need to realize is every game is bounded by time and space. So it begins within a boundary of time, opening ceremony, closing ceremony. And there is a space, physical space, let us say, in which these games begin. So that we'll do boundary of time and space. What if some other part of the world you are sitting here and enjoying this game on a television? Any part of the world. You could be sitting in India, you could be sitting right here, geographically somewhere in Oklahoma. Okay. This again becomes bounded by time and space. So a game always has a boundary of time and space. The first thing. Within this boundary, something very strange happens. What happens is, within this boundary, there is always some kind of, it is negotiated. Does every game not have its own rules? Rules of the game? Rules of the game is negotiated. Okay, so I'm going to write these two arrows means negotiated. Negotiated means rules of the game. There is nothing called ROTG. I'm just trying to write in short. Rules of the game. Every game has its own rules, and those rules we call, wherever you have rules, we call it negotiated. Now, are those rules applicable outside this game? No. Those rules are applicable within this boundary of time and space. When you're watching the same game on a television at your house, living room, again there is a boundary of time and space, and there are separate rules here. Separate rules as in, you cannot jump into the television, you can't pull the player out. You can only watch the game till the time you are seated there, until the time you don't have any other work. Okay, that is rule of the game of watching television. You can switch it off anytime, you can switch it on anytime. You can see a recorded game. Rules of the game. What if after some time, let's say closing ceremony, now what I do is I switch off the game. When I switch off the game, suddenly this entire boundary of time and space disappears. Opening ceremony, you switch on the game. Closing ceremony, you switch off the game. The moment you switch off the game, that boundary of time and space disappears. We are already well into metaphysics. I am not telling you a story just to entertain you. We are already entered the boundary of metaphysics. It is just that you do not know it yet. Okay? When I switch it off or switch it on, means it gives me another feature which is temporary. Game is temporary in nature. Start time, end time. It has a rule of the game. Okay? I want you to just think about, as I am going ahead, could dating be a game? I haven't told you full characteristics yet. Food for thought. Is marriage the next level of the game? We are going as per this. Is UPSC CSE itself a game? Is life itself a game? And a single day of your life also is a game, because it has a starting time, it has an ending time, there could be some rules of the game. You can call it rules of engagement here. I am not giving you an answer. I'm just leaving you to think about this once I explain the concept of the game. Then I hope you will this is just for your convenience. It looks like an electric current. I could have attached it here. Volt, easy to remember. And also watching on TV, so we can write TV. This easy to remember mnemonic. Mnemonic is a memory trick. Okay, it's just a trick to remember certain things. So another characteristic that now we are arriving is, game is always voluntary. It's voluntary. A game cannot be forced on anybody. If somebody is forcing you to play a game, it's not a game. If it is voluntary, then it will be a game. If it is forced upon you, it no longer remains a game. Imagine a bureaucrat forced into a game by a politician or by a senior bureaucrat or even a junior bureaucrat. It no longer remains a game. Okay, voluntary. So we figured out voluntary. Does every game have its own truth? Yeah, including the opening time and the closing time. It has its own truth. Do you think every game has its own value? What is valuable here? What is valuable? Values. Much later on, like in ethics, we speak moral values. Abhi we are not talking moral values. We're just talking values. Values means something that is very precious. Okay? And you want to maintain that preciousness, that valuableness throughout this game. For example, in a game, there could be spirit of sportsmanship is the value of the game. A fair game, unbiased. Okay? Okay. A game has its own truth within this boundary. A game has its own values within this boundary. A game has, you remember this ball? I'm not forgetting this. Everything is there for a purpose. A game has its own goals. It's voluntary, it has its own goals. People who are dating are in a boundary of time and space of their own, where other people may or may not be allowed in that special boundary of time and space. Okay? There are certain rules of dating which is only applicable to those two people. I am not giving you a final answer whether dating is a game or marriage is the next level of the game. Okay? Or UPSC CSE examination is a game, life is a game. Could it be that morality is a game? That is why I said we are entering the territory of meta ethics, because suddenly we've raised a very critical question, and the question is morality itself a game? A game has been constructed by human beings. It has been constructed by. Okay? Is morality constructed by human beings? Is morality temporary? Is it negotiated? Is it within that we play the game of morality within boundary of some time and space? Does morality have its own truth and values? Does it need to be voluntary? Does morality have some end goals? Does morality or any game, does it have consequences? We'll just leave it here. In the study of philosophy and ethics, it's good to have a certain degree of uncertainty linger in your mind. In most other subjects, you rush to close. That is why I said I'll give you a working definition of meta ethics. Much later, we will derive the definition of meta ethics. One of its applications, I mentioned, we can even analyze statements like the statement of CJI in 10 different ways in an academic manner. Now you understood what's a game. There is a very famous book, Games People Play. Okay, so that means a fixed script that they start playing with some fixed set of rules. But you have to decide which game you want to participate in as a bureaucrat, as a member of a family, as member of a community, as member of a nation and the international community. Okay? Switch it on, switch it off, temporary. Now what we've actually done is, We've raised some very fundamental questions. Some very fundamental points we have raised. These points are like this. Without even our realizing, we asked a couple of questions. The first question is, what is reality of a game? Is it real? Is it fictional? Does it exist? Reality has two branches. Whether something exists and how does it exist? I have written two words, I'll explain this. It can exist, something can exist as in reality. Something could be fictional. Something could be useful fiction. Something could be dangerous fiction. Something could be constructed through human deliberation. That means you could construct, for example, I could construct a rule that there'll be no argument between 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. in the morning through rational deliberation. Deliberation means thought, careful consideration, a logical consideration. That is why we said thoughtful deliberation, considered deliberation, etc. Now, exists was real, fiction, created by human beings, created by thought, created for convenience. Now this is being. Each of these words will be used thousands of times during your entire course of ethics. Being, the key word is to be. That means I am talking of to be anything, and then I put down some critical points. To be this, anything, a game, to be this, this and this. But very important is not to be. In ethics and morality, whenever you state that something is this and this, let's say you say two characteristics, this and this, it is very important for you to identify what it is not. So what we are saying is what it is and what it is not. So you can write what is, to be, bracket, what is, not to be, what is not. Therefore, being, you can understand, being in ethics is a very key word, essence. What is the essence of anything? Essence is, if I take out that essence, the thing will not remain the same. If I talk of human beings, essence of a human being, human essence. If I take out humanism, humanity, in other words, humanism or humanity out of a human being, Does a human being remain a human being? Answer is no. If you take out humanity or humanism from a human being, he or she doesn't remain a human being. You actually become like a wild animal. Or perhaps you become like this wall, like this board, unresponsive. Maybe you become like a robo who doesn't have moral concern for anything, who doesn't have moral consideration for anything, who's not able to distinguish between what is moral, what is immoral. You become like a robo, okay, or maybe something like this wall. So being is essence. At this point of time, let's leave this topic here, because there is a long journey by the time we arrive at the definition. So we will be describing it more and more and more. Okay. Now, I'm going to wipe off this. Let me assure you one thing. Whatever I am speaking should be your notes. And yes, it should be very comfortably your notes. If I give you synonyms, note them down. For those who would be looking at the video recording of this, please write down, or maybe if it is possible, take down as a transcript of this video and study from it. All right. Reality. Now let's look at that. Reminds me of an audience sitting at home. Whenever you enter a movie theater, there are rules of the game. You understand clearly. 3 hours, I am going to be looking at fiction. I'm going to be looking at unreasonable glamorization, unreasonable, unreal, fictional romanticism. My emotions are going to be enhanced or going to be triggered multifold, magnified. Okay? So, in that sense, a movie, or when you watch Netflix at home, you play a video game, you're actually playing, because what it happens is, let's go back to the definition of a game. A game is a temporary, negotiated, alternate reality. So, if you remember, I drew a boundary. The truth, the value, the goals, the consequences were inside. In one sense, every game creates alternate reality that is applicable within the boundary. Outside the boundary is reality, or the universe as we have. Inside this boundary is alternate reality. Okay, that's fine. Now let's make some good use of it. Let me try and draw a satellite here. What did I tell you in the beginning? Meta-ethics is a bird's eye view of the entire project of ethics. So just for the sake of you remembering it, instead of calling it United States, let's just call it entire project of ethics. Instead of a bird's eye view, it'll be better if we see it from a satellite. From a satellite, unless you're focused on a particular geographical area, what is going to happen? Unless you are focused on a particular geographical area, that means you're covering a huge geographical area, you can see the continent, you can see the oceans, you can see major geographical features, topographical features, the Rockies, etc. Maybe you can see the Mississippi River, maybe you can see the Colorado River, the Yellowstone National Park, maybe you can see all of that. Maybe you can see the deserts and the green area and the forests and the major weather patterns, but whatever you are seeing is a bird's eye view, okay? Like a satellite, major things. So what did I say? Meta-ethics is number one, the bird's eye view of the entire project of ethics. Whatever we know about ethics, whatever we talk about ethics, think about ethics, everything included, the language of ethics, the psychology of it, the social context of it. So don't worry with everything, just understand entire project. And then we deep dive. Deep dive, I mean, for example, I deep dive into, let's say, Miami in Florida. Deep dive means now I'm actually at Florida or Ciudad, Mexico. Now I will investigate every nook. Nook is N-O-O-K is every corner of Ciudad, Mexico. That means Mexico City. Every corner of Mexico City, every nook and cranny, C-R-A-N-N-Y, that means every hole in the wall. That means we're going to go to such kind of details in ethics, morality, and look at every alley, roam every alley of Ciudad, Mexico. By the way, why would you not say Mexico, but say Mexico? Because it's a cultural convention. Even if it is wrong, it becomes, even if it is a literal pronunciation of the word, which is wrong, because a place can only be known how the locals call it. You can't have your own version of that. You can't say, I'm going to call United States of America as something else. I'll call India something else. I'll call New Delhi something else. Can you call New Delhi as New Delhi? New Tally? New Rally? No. That means you got to call New Delhi like the way locals call it. But you still carry on calling it Guadalajara, Guadalajara, which is wrong because everybody calls it that. You are doing a literal pronunciation of this. Here I leave you with one specific point. Is it that you are doing, is it that the world does a literal interpretation of holy scriptures? Are they doing a literal interpretation of holy scriptures? Just to think. Okay, I think we are done with this. Now we're going to be coming to the example of city. I'll give you a little later. Little later means maybe in 5-10 minutes time. Okay. Let's look at, since we're talking of introduction to meta ethics, we'll have to play 4 roles in meta ethics. These roles are like this. 4 roles. That means we'll have to wear 4 hats. Okay? Let's say this is hat number 1. I don't want to draw more hats. 2, 3, and 4. Hats, wearing hat means playing a role. We have to play 4 roles. The first role is that of a metaphysicist. Somebody who does metaphysics, metaphysicist. I must tell you, when we say meta ethics, you do these 4 things. Play the role of a metaphysicist. The second is we wear the hat of something called epistemologist. Epistemologist. When we play the role of metaphysicist, for ethics, we're going to be asking, is morality real? Is it fictional? Is it real? Is it fictional? Is it dangerous fiction? Is it useful fiction? Can it be discovered by human reason? Can it be discovered through divine commands or holy scriptures? Can it be discovered through any other means? Can we use reason to discover morality? Or is it that morality has been constructed through rational deliberation? That means a very careful, thoughtful, deep, considered thinking, and then we arrived at something called morality? Or is it we just made morality because it makes that we can live in our society in a more cooperative, collaborative, avoiding conflict, gaining from each other, frictionless ways? Is it that we created morality for convenience? To avoid conflict, for example, is convenience. It makes our task easier. That is the role of this. Then we'll also be discovering as a metaphysicist what is essence of morality. What is the essence? Morality is to be what? And not to be what? And you'll find there'll be 10 different versions. Yes, 10 different versions. Meta-ethical theories. So based on what the essence we identify, being you can also call it what is the nature of morality. Okay. Epistemologist does epistemology. Logy is study, examination, study of something. You do a philosophical study of knowledge. Normally, what we are concerned with is what do we know? How much do we know? We never think about what do we know, how much do we know, what are the limitations of our knowledge, what is the scope of our knowledge, what do you know about what you know, knowledge about knowledge. How do you know that is knowledge? So when I drew, for example, the United States of America thing, okay, if I was to draw in brief, it came out something like this, and I'm just going to draw it here, and something like here. What is the scope of our knowledge? It doesn't go beyond this. Therefore, what is the limitation of our knowledge? What is the origin of our knowledge? How do we know? How did we come across this knowledge? What is the origin of this knowledge? What is the status of this knowledge? It's little too early for me to get into status. Okay, but 4 points this person examines: origin, status, scope, how much, and the limitations of knowledge. The third role you play is that of linguistic study of a language. It has 5 components. 2 components are of great use to us: phonetics, phonology, study of sounds, what sounds relate to what elements of a language, words, phrases, adverbs, adjectives, sentences, paragraphs, essays, elements of language. How are these sounds? Phonetics. This is interesting. Phonetics. Okay, phonetics, organized. Then morphology. I'm going to give you a very good strategic advantage over other candidates if you do the morphology. Morphology means how different terms are formed. Okay, and I'll give you examples when we come across certain words, how words are formed. Okay, then semantics. At this point of time, just understand semantics as study of meaning of different elements of a language. What is this elements of a language? Don't you have words, terms, phrases, idioms? Don't you have analogies, sentences, expressions? Oh my God. Oh my God itself is an element of a language. used by native speakers to indicate certain things. Okay, semantics. I'll get into details of this when we start coming towards here. And this is pragmatism. Does the meaning of element of a language remain the same in different contexts, or is it that as the context changes, as the contexts changes, the meaning of the same element changes? That's called pragmatism. Pragmatism. So this will be very important to us. And the fourth hat that we wear is that of a psychologist. I'll explain when I come to that. Psychologist. So that means meta-ethicist has to play 4 roles: of a metaphysicist, of a epistemologist, as a linguistics and psychologist. I am actually gradually arriving at meta-ethics definition, but this is a definition that you will not only deeply understand but never ever forget it. Okay, let's do away with this. So I think when we begin our journey into UPSC CSE, not only ethics but all other preparation for anything and everything, I think it's very important for you to know what nuances are. Let's go on a humble journey with a reason to understand what are nuances. Okay, let's take a real example. Red. Do you understand red? Red, the color red. Go ask people. How many shades of red can they identify? Ask people around you. Think about it yourself before you go and ask anybody else. Do we understand something as common, as uncontroversial as red, and will arrive at a great realization? There are bright and vivid reds. There are dark and deep reds. There are very earthy and muted reds. Opposite of bright and vivid is earthy and muted. And there is classic and true. Even if it is small, you can magnify the video and see it. Okay? Now let me quickly go through this. You don't have to by heart it or anything, but you just need to understand. Then we'll appreciate nuances. Bright and vivid. You've heard of a color called scarlet, tomato, vermilion, apple candy red, fire truck red. Classic and true. Crimson, ruby, cherry, imperial, cardinal. Cardinal red is feathers of a bird cardinal. Deep and dark. Okay. Let's say burgundy, maroon, wine, ox blood, blood. Ox blood is dried blood. Brick red, barn red, terracotta, Indian red, and you have mahogany. I just gave you 20 shades of red. Now you understand the word nuance. Things are more complex and multi-layered than what we imagine. Our mind would simply pick up this color red, look at 2-3 shades, and decide it is the end of the world. If other people do it, it's fine. But if you want to clear the UPSC, CSE, the ethics paper, this is not fine. And in a lot of your other UPSC papers also, it is not fine. Unless you can understand something thoroughly, unless you can crack the multi-layered structure of things, appreciate the complexity of things, our mind does a mental shortcut, cognitive shortcuts, and it tells us we know everything. We don't even know a color. Okay. Now with this, and this is not a comprehensive list, there could be more. There has to be more. All of this comes in form of a shade card. Different shades. I'm going to be using this concept heavily in subjective versus objectivity. That is why I introduced this. Let's call it a shade card. A shade card. Okay. Now let's look at Christianity. Okay. Christianity. Similarly, we say, well, those people are Christians. And the mind has already processed information. You've not understood the multiple dimensions within Christianity, the major branches or the major denominations of Christianity. Your mind is playing an awful trick at you. So let's kind of begin. Let's say early Christianity, 451 CE, the early form of Christianity split into something called Church of the East. I'm just trying to write it in short way. Okay, Church of the East. You could also call it Oriental Orthodoxy. Then comes 1054 CE, which is called the Great Schism, SCHISM. It means the Great Divide, the Great Split, but we pronounce it as Schism, SKI, okay, Schism. What happened here was, you had Eastern Orthodoxy and the Roman Catholic Church. This included the Russian, the Serbian, the Greek, and the Antiochian. Antioch was a city in Turkey. Now it is, after the geographical boundaries and everything got reformed, okay, reallocation. Now it is in Damascus in Syria. Okay, Antioch. Then came the Protestant Reformation. Protestant Reformation, one of the biggest events that changed everything. So you had the Roman Catholicism, and then you had 4 branches. Okay, you have Lutheran, Lutheran, Lutheran. You had something called Reformed, or you could call it Calvinist or Presbyterian. Presbyterian. Terian. Presbyterian. Okay. Then you have the Anglican Church, Church of England, and you have Anabaptist. Anabaptist. Anabaptist split into 2, the Amish and the Mennonites. Anglican Church split into 2, the Baptist, the Methodist. The Methodist split into 2, Pentecostal, 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 and you have a name. Okay, let me see if my memory pops up this name. Okay. Now this is not complete. You have other denominations which came up in 19th century. For example, Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints, the followers of which are also called Mormons. Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints. You have Jehovah's Witnesses. You have Seventh-day Adventists. These 3 names. You had Protestant Reformation. These were restorationists and non-Trinitarians. Okay, Trinity is the Lord, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Why was all these splits happening? Because they had fundamentally different beliefs. They had fundamentally different religious beliefs. Their assumptions were completely different. So if there are fundamental differences, there are fights amongst these denominations, then what happens? So when you say, I think Baptist, we have evangelists, independent churches, large independent churches. I'm still stuck here. Okay, maybe the name will pop up in about a minute's time. Now these are example of nuances, and we say Christians, we say red. Please don't say that, because in ethics paper you better recognize nuances of a situation. Okay, let me tell you about emotions and feelings. What I'm going to tell you about is a particular model by a guy called Dr. Paul Ekman. Dr. Paul Ekman is famous for his Atlas of Emotions. that he framed, developed it with Dalai Lama. So when you study emotions, you refer to Dr. Paul Ekman as the classical view of emotions. But there are completely different views and contrary views. Like, for example, Richard Lazarus, okay, Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett, different models of emotions. So the one that we're going to be referring right now is by Dr. Paul Ekman. Okay, I would imagine, can you imagine a carrot or a radish has a single thick root and multiple branches? Okay, so I'm going to draw this. You can imagine it as a carrot or a radish. So we have 5 and 6. How would the branches look like? The branches would typically look like this. But I'm drawing with a specific intention in mind. Some branches. Just look at the branches. What do you see? How have I deliberately drawn it? Each successive branch gets higher than the first branch. Okay, and that is how it keeps increasing. All right. So Dr. Paul Ekman identified A is anger, fear, disgust, sadness, happiness. This is also called enjoyment and surprise. He said these are 6 universal biological root emotions. You will notice as we keep on going forward, what I'll do is, every time when I want to speak of emotion and I write E, if I write E for emotion, I'm just going to draw a little root like this. Root emotion. Okay? I think it's a good practice for you, at least for the purpose of your UPSC. Whenever you want to revise something, you're saying emotions, draw a root in your mind or on a piece of paper. Root emotions. What does universal mean? Everyone, everywhere has this. Everyone, everywhere has this because it is part of our biological, genetic programming. These root emotions was for survival of human beings. So these root emotions are for survival. Therefore, it is biological. Biological also means genetic, genes. It is pre-programmed into our genes. And why is it? Because of survival. Survival. When I talk to you about personality, then we'll be talking about two different things. One is these universal biological root emotions, and one will talk about something called psychological themes. Right now, we're not getting into it, but I'm just trying to tell you that moving forth, we will need everything that I'm telling you right now. I'll keep referring this. And at that point of time, I will not explain this. Okay? So we'll have universal biological root emotions and we'll have psychological themes. Okay? When we talk of this, is it easy for you to remember something called Bapre? Especially people who are Hindi speaking can remember Bapre is like, oh dad. Okay? In English. Re is root emotion. And it is universal and biological. You cannot do away with this. It is built into your genes. The moment there is some movement here, I'm likely to look at it like this instantly. It is meant for my survival. You can see it in human beings, you can see it in animals, you can see it in so many insects. The moment you approach a fly, it flies off. Okay. Now this one, just add U. Both these things mean the same. This is universal biological affect program. When we talk of attitudes, there'll be a 3-component model of attitude that we will study is the ABC model. Affective, behavioral and cognitive. Affective, for you to understand affective or affect, right now you can simply understand as emotions and feelings. Later on I'll tell you more about it. Affect, feelings and emotions. Okay? Biological affective program. Whether you speak this or you speak this, you're speaking of the same thing. Whether you're talking of this or this, it essentially means exactly the same thing. Program. But get used to both of this. Program. Very interesting. It's like pre-programmed into our genetics. It's like a software. It's like a firmware in the hardware. It's a logic hardwired into the motherboard itself. You can't take it out. That is one thing you cannot take it out. It'll get destroyed if the motherboard gets destroyed, but you can't take it out. Program. It is also, you can call it automatic. It triggers automatically. There is a little movement here that from the corner of my eye I see some kind of a motion. I'll actually look at it here. Okay? So automatic. So let's kind of talk to you about these. There are other root emotions we'll talk about, but they are not biological. As per Paul Ekman, anger. You don't have to mug up these names. These names, these ones, yes. Above ones, you don't need to mug it up, but have a look at it. So, one, we can experience intellectual humility, realize how little we know, how wrongly we know certain things, how limited our vocabulary is, how less efforts have we put as students to get into details of things. Okay, so let's get cracking on this. Anger. Okay, I'll take off Paul Ekman. Anger. You are argumentative. Whenever you're angry, you get argumentative, but that is not where you start from. You get very argumentativeness, bitterness, vengefulness, fury, or rage. See, the intensity keeps increasing, this classification. Okay? Okay, I've come across the morphology. What we are doing is something called taxology. If you do a morphology, how this word is formed? It is taxology. Study of, science of how things are. Taxis means how things are organized as per common features into a particular class. And then you look at different classes, again collect common features and make a hierarchy of classes, how things get organized. Study of how things are organized. This is a good example again of morphology. So he's done in his Atlas of Emotions, he has done a taxonomy of different feelings associated here. So we said argumentativeness, bitterness, vengefulness, fury or rage. But it starts with annoyance. You get annoyed, annoyance, frustration. When you meet a roadblock, something is blocking your way, you get frustrated. Exasperation, exasperation. Exasperation means when you start running out of patience. Exasperation, exasperated, you're running out of patience. Okay, now when I do the rest, I'm not going to draw all of this, but I'll simply write it like this. Trepidation, trepidation. Trepidation is apprehension. कुछ होने वाला है, something is going to happen. Trepidation, apprehension. Anxiety, anxiousness, nervousness. Okay. Dreadfulness. Desperate, panic, horror. These are root emotions. These are feelings. What you experience is above this line. What you experience. You don't experience an emotion, because these emotions are part which get automatically triggered. Without you consciously realizing it, it'll get triggered. It is biological, genetic. Okay? Without you realizing, without you even thinking, no conscious thought. What is very important to write is, it's automatic. It is pre-programmed. Essentially means the same thing. No conscious thought. No conscious thought. When you don't even know of it, how can you do anything about it? Okay? Feelings is what you experience. This is your experience zone. What you experience. And if you were to express your feelings openly, if the societal standards or the situation allowed you to open up and express your feelings openly, the other people could also witness your feelings through your behavior, through your words. You could express it. Okay? So, feelings is outwardly manifestation. It's outwardly manifestation. Emotions internally focused. Attitude internally focused. Feelings outwardly manifestation. Manifestation means to reveal itself. Manifestation means to reveal itself. Something reveals itself as feelings. This is your, I call it the experience zone. Not only I, everybody calls it the experience zone here. Disgust. You dislike something, you have a distaste of something, you have aversion. Aversion, AVERSION, aversion. You have repulsion. Abhor, ABHORENC, abhorrence. Loathing, interesting. Loathing. Disgust, the highest stage is loathing, highest intensity. Loathing. Loathing is such a state where you are not critical of what a person is doing. You are not criticizing a person in any form. You are dismissing the person completely. You are dismissing the person as a human being. Does it remind you of something here? Abhi we have not reached meta-ethical theories. Loathing is where you refuse to see a person as a human being. Perhaps that is why some words that came out of his mouth were cockroaches and parasites. Loathing. Unfortunate. Okay. But when we come to meta-ethical theories, there'll be 10 different ways we will interpret, including one of the ways that will say that those words meant nothing. Those words were just an expression of frustration and they meant nothing. One meta-ethical theory will say those words meant that he's shouting for help. Help me. I'm under too much stress. I'm under too much pressure. Anyway, I don't want to disclose that right now. Okay, let's go back. Sadness. We'll start little high. Sorrow, anguish, despair. You resigned yourself to fate. Somebody resigns themselves to their fate. Hopelessness. It starts with disappointment, discouragement, and it goes up like that. Happiness and enjoyment. Gratification. You have an ice cream, you really enjoyed it. Physical senses. Gratification is typically related to your physical senses. Physical senses are five. I hope all of you know about it. You're seeing and tasting and smelling something and feeling something and hearing something. Your five senses. So gratification is got to do with your five senses. Gratification, rejoicing. Something good happened, you're rejoicing. Your ability to rejoice in other people's enjoyment is called compassion. Is one application of compassion is your ability to genuinely enjoy somebody else's happiness uh, is compassion. Then amusement, then peace, happiness, peace, excitement, then is uh, amaze, is awe, A-W-E, awe, and uh, P is pride, awe, pride, ecstasy, ec. Okay, perhaps you'll not be able to see that high because that's what my video guy told me is okay. Peace, what did we say? Amusement, peace. I think it slips from my mind. CAPE, and I said awe, pride, ecstasy, peace, excitement, awe, pride, ecstasy, surprise. You know why we drew it very small? Because surprise is the briefest. Briefest means in terms of time. In terms of time. It is the briefest emotion. For a little time you're surprised and then it resolves into one of this. It converts into one of this. This is startled. Startled means चौंकना, थोड़ा चौंक गए, startled. Astonishment, amazement, bewilderment, complete confusion, bewildered, complete confusion. कुछ समझ नहीं आ रहा, complete confusion. You're just frozen and you don't know what options are, bewildered. And then the root emotion of surprise resolves it into one of this. You know why disgust as an emotion got evolved? Everything is evolutionary. Everything is evolutionary because it is meant for your survival and thrival, but basically survival. Disgust was developed as a biological root emotions to save you from contamination. Contamination, like food poisoning. You would not eat rotten food. It will look ugly to you. You'll get disgusted. The rotten food or rotten meat or whatever it is will smell bad to you. Water which is stagnant will stink. That stink will disgust you. It will not allow you to eat it. Certain type of foods you'll not eat. Certain type of certain type of meats you may not eat. Okay, that is why. Evolutionary, to save you from contamination, that means from poison, toxicity, okay. Normally I have fun drawing a skull. Okay, and you've seen a sign like this, a danger sign, something that is toxic, harmful to you. Toxicity. Okay. Now there are other emotions which are also root emotions, but they are not evolutionary. This one, for example, now let's draw a line here. This side is universal biological root emotions or universal biological affect program, which is one and the same thing. Here is universal root emotions. Now this one, you see, it's not biological, it's not genetic. It's got nothing to do with pre-programming. लेकिन इसकी भी programming होती है. Okay? This is also pre-programmed. But this is pre-programmed in two senses, social and moral. It happens, this pre-programming happens from your childhood, early childhood. When as a child, almost an infant, little child, they're so comfortable without wearing anything. They're so happy moving around naked. They don't want to wear it. Until the time the mother and or the father or the grandparents or somebody comes along and says, "Oh, shame, shame." Till the time the child absolutely has nothing. They don't have this feeling of couple of feelings. Contempt, then you have shame, embarrassment, guilt, I don't want to write jealousy. There is envy. Please do not club this with this. This is all of these are learned emotions. Learned emotions. They are learned through experience. Experiencing as in social experience, moral experience. Shame is something you feel internally. You feel ashamed of yourself for having done something. You look down upon yourself. Embarrassment is public. You're embarrassed before others, that I made a fool of myself, that I did something which was not matching what their expectations of me was. So you are embarrassed, you're deeply embarrassed, but it is public. Shame is internal. Guilt is internal with a sense of repairing something. You know you have caused a real damage to something in some manner. You feel that load of guilt and you basically want to repair something. Envy. Envy is, these are also learned feelings. All of them are learned feelings. This is heavier on cognition. Envy is when you want to have something that somebody else has. So your mind does a comparison. Why he or she has and I do not have. There is a comparison. There is a certain amount of anger. It's a combination of some amount of anger as a root. Why don't I have this? You're angry at the injustice that I should have had this and this person should not have had, or at least even I should have had. There is anger. There is sadness. You're sad that you don't have it. Okay? You're even disgusted. So, three roots: anger, sadness, disgust, envy. The root emotions of envy is anger, sadness, and disgust. You're disgusted by the fact that somebody else has it and not you. So that is okay. So these would be some of the other feelings. These are feelings. Learned, social, moral. If something is learnt, that means it's not with you by birth. This is a very important point. That means that thing is not with you by birth. It is not genetic. It's not biologically programmed into you. It depends on the society you are born, the culture of the society that you are born. If that society considers something offensive, now you learnt it, that I have to be offended at this. If that society considers it threatening, I mean the cultural tradition of that society. The cultural traditions are also called conventions, habits, not habits, practices. It depends on which society you are born. I drew North America, for example. If you are born in a certain part of Mexico versus a certain part of United States, eastern, western, northern, south, southern, the Canadian, and within that, which state, which city, which neighborhood, which socio-economic class, with what degree of political influence, power, representation, that will define your society. Again, if I look at CJI, I want you to think what society does he actually belong? Okay? I do not mean either the caste or the creed. A good way to think is, in his professional circle, where does he spend 85 to 90% of his time? With whom he is there? That is his daily life. And if that has been his daily life for the last 30 years and 40 years, that's a society. Sometimes we do a mistake because we do not understand nuances. So we think everybody who is born in a particular geographical place is a society. Within a society, there are so many cultures. It depends which exact community are you part of. And that community essentially doesn't mean who stays around you. Like here, community, you must understand it like you have communities on LinkedIn or on other social media. You're there because of a certain shared characteristic, a shared interest, a shared aspiration, a shared struggle. वो जो मंच होता है, वो पर्टिकुलर जो मंच है, that platform, which you become voluntary part of that platform. So it will be pretty simplistic for you to think that everybody in Delhi shares the same culture. Physical area is common. Rest, very few things are common. Socio-economic class, socio-economic combined with caste. Could be in some other places, could be races, ethnicity, color, United States of America, color, Europe. Okay. Contempt. This is almost same. I'm sorry, it should also be as deep, although it's a learned emotion, but it's something like this. Contempt. This was for food items, typically for food items, for food, sex, any kind of biological needs. Okay. This is more social and moral. So we can borrow something, dislike for somebody, disdain for somebody, having a very low opinion of somebody. C is for condescending behavior. Condescending, with going down. Con, like in Spanish and Latin and Italian, would mean with, con. Sin would mean without. With descending, that means going down. That means if I am looking down on somebody, with a looking down attitude towards somebody is condescending. Ing is a state of continuing. Can I say? The ing is the state of continuing. Present continuing. Anywhere continuing. Condescending, then mockery. Mockery is active. Active. It's an outwardly manifestation of behavior, of your expression towards somebody. Maybe your talk, maybe your actions, maybe your facial gestures, maybe your body language is active. Your disdain or condescending behavior, you could even go silent on somebody and refuse to talk to somebody. And finally comes loathing. Here the loathing is for disgust, is typically we used it for anything which is biological. Biological. Food, drinks, sex, something more. Here, social context, loathing. Refusing to see that human being as a human being because you see that human being as so evil. So what we've done in this session is we've done an introduction of this. I've done the game. We've done nuances, red and Christianity. I've covered emotions and feelings. So what we'll do is we'll stop right now and continue next time onwards with something that is root emotion families. These are root emotion families. These feelings belong to anger emotion, root emotion family. These feelings belong to fear family, disgust family, sadness family, happiness family, surprise family, contempt family. I'll end it with one thing very important. Imagine this. This is called randomness of emotions. So I'm just going to write this. Randomness. So when we start our next session, I'll talk to you about randomness of emotions. Means, let's say your friend becomes angry at you. Your friend becomes angry at you. Depending on what your universal biological affect programming is genetically, or same thing as universal biological root emotion programming is, how that programming is, your automated responses. Depending on this and or depending on psychological themes that we have not spoken about, but we will speak about it when I touch attitude, when I touch personality. Depending on that, if your friend gets angry, you could get angry. In a different situation, on a different day, when your friend gets angry, you could get fearful that my friend will go away from me. The same person in a different situation, depending on how secure that person is feeling, environment is feeling, could perhaps feel this or this. But the likelihood is a single person, it will touch one root. To a different person, friend gets angry, that person gets fearful. To the third person, friend gets angry, you get disgusted. Fourth person, friend gets angry, you become sad. Your friend gets angry, you're happy. You're happy at that person being angry. Maybe you wanted him to be angry. So it depends whether some trigger, actually you see, it's not the trigger. What triggered your emotions? Rather than the trigger being very important, what is very important is what is your universal biological root emotion? Depending on that, this thing will either activate this or 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 activate this and resolve here. Second step is your friend becomes angry at you. It also depends on psychological theme. That is not something what we have covered right now. So different people have different universal biological affect program, but all of these 6 are present in all human beings. This is a learnt one. These are some other feelings. All right, see you all in the next session. When we meet, I'm going to ask you specific questions. Okay, it's like a test of what we did today. I'll be emailing it to you. All right, thank you.